Hi, my name is Chris. You can call me LEC. My in-game name is Leckety Lek Lek. We are currently rank number 29, and we've achieved, we've been undefeated in Versus Arena at Grand Champion rank twice. This is a continuation of our series, doing a set review of the Alliance War expansion pack for the Elder Scrolls Legends. So far we've done part 1, we did the leaders, multicolor, and neutrals. Part 2, we did strength, red. Part 3, we did willpower, yellow, I believe. Part 4, we did intelligence, blue. And part 5, we did green agility, I believe. I uploaded them on YouTube, and they are crazy long. I have no idea how I have so much content, or I have no idea how I'm just able to talk about the cards for so long. So this time, we're going to try to be a little bit more brief. We don't have as much time to record, but we'll try to give each card its thorough treatment in both constructed ranked and versus arena. I'm also really excited that my most recent match, I was able to play against Please Don't Hack Me, a player I really admire. He's a great player. And I was able to beat him for the first time with Manic Jack high rolling charge. So if you want to see that, I could link it to you, but it's awesome. So, Alliance War. Endurance. We started at 4:57 p.m. We'll see how long it'll take. Welcome to stream. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. I'm more than happy to discuss. And I want to say something before I begin, about the green cards, because I did the set review in green, and I said these two cards suck. I said Empire Dreadmage sucks, basically, and Sai Sahan's not very good. Like, I try to look at him holistically, like, not just are they good or bad, but I try to look at, like, okay, what are the different use cases? What kind of decks can they fit in? And it's worth noting that Sai Sahan and Empire Dreadmage, which I believed were not constructed playable, were actually in the finals for today's Master Series qualifier. SN Prook brought them in a very unique and interesting homebrew revolving Shearpoint Dragons. So he used Sai Sahan, he used Drain Vitalities to great effect in the scout list. So I'm really interested in checking that out. Like, I need to check it out more carefully because I haven't seen all the matches. But SN Prook was able to take these cards, which I considered not very good, and take them very far in the tournament. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I have limited experience. Great Moot Squire, Argonian, 1 cost, 1/2, veteran, +1/+1. So this card is, it's fighting for a slot versus, when you think of the other 1-drops, I usually don't like running 1-drops in general. Even in an aggressive list, I seem to have way more 2-drops and 1-drops. It's my personal preference in constructed and arena. And those 1-drop slots that I do run, I try to put really high value, high impact 1-drops. The finals were actually won with a 1-drop, Relentless Raider. That was such a high impact 1-drop. It even eliminated me from the tournament. I was eliminated by Relentless Raider. So when we think of this one drop, you need to think of it in comparison with other one drops and say, hey, they're both competing for a slot in your deck. Is this worthy of taking a Relentless Raider spot? Absolutely not. So in Constructed, there are way too many good one drops that just make this card unattractive. Relentless Raiders, Orang Tongs. These cards have so much snowball potential, and even then, a lot of people try not to dedicate too many slots to them sometimes, because maybe they have a preference for 2-drops like I do. But I do think 1-drops do have a place. It's certainly possible to end a game by turn 4. My final match in Master Series Qualifier 2 terminated on turn 4. And I was so confused and so surprised because I was racing him. He was at 15 life on turn 3. I was at 30 life at turn 3. He had 1 Relentless Raider and 1 Orc Clan Captain, and he killed me faster. So he 2-turned me, and I could not do 15 damage in my second attack, and he did 30 damage in 2 attacks with a 1-drop and a 2-drop. So it's hard to see this guy have that kind of potential because his keyword, Veteran +1/+1, doesn't have something as impactful as every time your rune breaks, deal 1 damage, or Morong Tong, every time you slay, create another Morong Tong, which can just get out of control real quick, using all kinds of combat tricks, such as Shining Saint, using that +2 Gavel, like the thing that I'm running in my Dominion deck, give a creature +2/+0, make it immune to damage. Those kind of things make 1-drops like Morong Tong super dangerous for anybody to put something in front of it. Now, in Arena, this card is definitely playable. It's definitely a playable card. +1/+1 makes him a 2/3 for 1, which is the stat line of a 2-drop. So he basically comes down with an average 1-drop body, and then when after he attacks, he becomes a 2-drop. With good follow-up, he can get in a lot of damage. But he's not a game-winning card by himself. You need to, if you're choosing to draft him, you would need to think carefully, what is your strategy? Like, and this is something that makes good drafts and bad drafts, is you try to, when you're drafting, you think to yourself, okay, your strategy is changing with each and every new card you pick. So you kind of be adaptive early on, and you're saying, okay, what are the cards that are available to me? And then you start to try to, as you progress further down your draft, you start drafting cards that advance that game plan that you can see your cards being able to push forward. So, for example, if you saw him early in your draft and he was a better choice than your other 2 picks, you can think, okay, I got a 1-drop, and let's say you chose him. Then you say, I've got a 1-drop. He can start the ball going early. And then you start seeing your other draft picks, and you say, okay, is that a game plan I want to keep on going, or is he just going to be sort of one of? He's not going to be the core strategy I'm running is not going to be an early push. He's just going to be. He's a sort of outlier. It's possible. Maybe you want to build on something, a different game plan, right? Later down the draft, though, if you've already drafted a lot of early game creatures, you should think to yourself, if I draft this guy, do I have too many early game creatures? Like, will my hand be empty too fast? And do these guys push enough damage in together? So you kind of need to think about your curve and try to look at that little bar graph that shows you your curve and see, hey, is this something my opponent would be scared of? If not, don't pick him up. If yes, if he helps make your curve more difficult for your opponents to deal with, pick him up. So for Constructed, it's very, very challenging to say that he's good enough to take. He can't take the slot of those other 1-drop slots that are already so good for the colors that have access to those red Relentless Raider, green Morong Tongs, and those are the top 1-drops that come to my mind. And also right now, like let's say, I mean, Dominion would never run this, but to put it in perspective, the best 1-drop in the game to me right now seems to be Dominion Oathman. although not when played on curve. But to Dominion Oathman, what it's doing is it's getting potentially 2 damage to the face, 2 damage to heal from that immediately, 2/2 body for a 1-drop, and then it has Drain. That is like so good that a Great Moot Squire, like you play a Great Moot Squire and someone else plays a Dominion Oathman, it feels bad. Hush. 1-drop, silence, action, prophecy. Silence a creature. I actually really like this card. I have 2 of them in my Covenant deck, and I think it's surprising to my opponents. So So first of all, silence is such a good effect for an aggressive deck. Aggressive decks need access to silences. Silences remove guards, basically. That's like the biggest use case. Your opponent's at 2 life, they throw down a Phalanx Exemplar, and you've got a few weak guys left in front of it that can't get through. Silence is the answer. So you don't need to use silence to take down a super statted creature down. You can use silence to take down a guard or a drain. Think Hand of Dagoth, right? I'm running Covenant aggro. Hand of Dagoth comes down in the shadow lane. Let's say he's at 4 life. Or he'll be at 4 life after I attack him, right? I don't want him to heal up to 9. And like, how else are you going to deal with a Hand of Dagoth if you don't have a silence? So when you're talking about silences, people are running things like there's a 0-cost silence card. I don't know its name. There's a 0-cost silence card, same thing, but doesn't have prophecy. Okay. Then there's Earthbone Spinner and Halalu Sharpshooter. So Earthbone Spinner is a little bit more expensive and deals damage. So it's 4 cost, 3, 2, deal 1 silence, and then deal 1 damage to that creature. Halalu Sharpshooter, 3 cost, plot, silence a creature. So those are those two are very popular in people's lists, and I just don't have any Halalu Sharpshooters. So I don't have them crafted, and I only have 1 Earthbone Spinner, and I've always been happy with my Earthbone Spinner's performance. I don't know, sometimes I'm always curious how my 1-ofs seem to have such high impact, because like it seems like my 1-ofs in a lot of my decks, I'm not afraid to 1-ofs. And I think that my game plan isn't so much, hey, I have 1-of, I am going to rely on just Earthbone Spinner. I'll put things like Hush in there so that I have redundancy built in, so I have multiple sources of silence. So let's say I think I have 2 Hushes actually in my Covenant deck. Like we can check right now. I believe so. 2, yeah, there's 2 Hushes in my deck, and I got to rank 18 with it, so Hush must be a pretty decent card. And my rationale for why would I choose Hush over my other options? So in my Covenant deck, I really, really value prophecies. I really think prophecies, like, once you have a critical mass of prophecies in your deck, your game plan can actually, you can actually strategically build in prophecies into your game plan once you have a critical mass of them. So for me, I'm running 16 to 17 prophecies in my Covenant deck. So I consider it, that's why I called my deck Prophet. It's kind of a pun. So many prophecies. I basically built in my strategy with, I don't care about my life total, I don't want to drain, and I want you to hit me, and I'm going to make it very uncomfortable for you not to attack me. And because I'm so stacked in prophecies, with that, the probability of, if someone breaks 2 runes in a row, the chances of getting a prophecy become incredibly high. And so those prophecies are always game changing. They're always like all the prophecy cards in my deck really are strong enough to change the board state. Hush isn't the most powerful prophecy to get off, but it's pretty useful. Another example where prophecy comes into play silence comes into play for aggro decks is you can remove Shackle. So if someone harpies one of your creatures, let's say they shackle your 8/8 and they don't put a guard in front of it, you can silence your own creature who is shackled and then hit him in the face. That was something that I had to learn from the Discord channel. I did not know that. I had to ask people. I'm a fan of the card art. I like it. Very recognizable. It's cool. It's a little kinky kind of, but with the magic, with some cool pinks. I'm sure the premium looks great. But overall, very happy with this card. One cost and zero cost. That's another thing between the one cost and the zero cost. I found that I've never had problems with Magicka in aggro decks. I always have Magicka left over. So one cost, silence. I don't see it as zero cost is much, much better than a one cost in this case. And I do think one cost is much, much better than the 3 or 4 cost silence, because I'm able to develop my board with other plays. So I can play other things along with Hush, as opposed to my whole turn is just Earthbone Spinner. My whole turn is something like forced into something and then Halalu Sharpshooter. I haven't had a chance to experiment with Halalu Sharpshooter yet, but I've versed Halalu Sharpshooter many, many times. And it's generally the last card, most of those aggressive. Like, I find that a lot of aggro decks, a lot of high-level aggro players keep some source of silence in their hand as their last few plays. Like, when their hand is empty or has like one card left, it's usually something like a Halalu Sharpshooter, some kind of silence to get through the last guard or to take off a shackle. That's my experience, and that's actually what made me cut a lot of cards like Dark Seducers from my deck. I used to run Dark Seducer heavy decks. Every single deck I used to run had 3 Dark Seducers. That's how serious I like that card. Until, so when I got to Legend rank 200, I had 3 Dark Seducers in every single deck, because to get to rank 200, Dark Seducers made people cry. You just put Dark Seducer in front of their aggro list and they don't have silences. The guys who are playing at a higher ranking than 200, those guys are packing silences for days. So make sure you're running your silences. Get something that can do it. And it doesn't need to be Halalu Sharpshooter. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Things like Hush do the job just as well. Because really, you don't really care about Halalu Sharpshooter's 2/3 body. You care about the silence. Silencing the hand of Dagoth is really important. And there are situations where it's awkward, where you have a Halalu Sharpshooter, I would imagine, and you can't silence them because you can't plot trigger. Cruel Axe. 2-drop item, mobilize, summon, +1/+1 for each enemy creature in this lane. I want to say something about Hush, about Arena. Would I put this in Arena? Would I pick up Hush in Arena? It's not my first choice, but I definitely won't be sad if it was in my hand. So I wouldn't. When I'm looking at a draft, you do try not to be perfectionistic. You basically look at your card. You realize every time you do a draft, your draft won't be perfect. You're given random cards, and you have to choose the best out of cards that sometimes are all bad. You might have 3 bad choices. At that point, you try to think to yourself, okay, what do I need? Right? Silence can be really useful because it can also remove items, buffs. Lethal can remove lethal, right? It's a very flexible card, so it is nice to have, but just make sure you don't have too many of these cards, because these cards, if you have too many of them, like if a guy had a handful of cards that are reactive, what's the right word? They don't really advance your game plan. They kind of they're supporting spells, basically. And if you have too many of those, then you're not going to be able to finish off your opponent or create enough pressure. So you want to sprinkle your deck with a few of these and use them as sort of combat tricks to gain tempo in Arena, but you can't put too many of them, otherwise your deck is no longer dangerous. Cruel Axe. Item, mobilize, summon, +1/+1 for each enemy creature in this lane. This card reminds me of 2-drop. What's his name? Orc. There's an orc guy. Dragon something orc. What is his name? Something orc. Orc. Dragon Tail Savior. So Dragon Tail Savior is a 2-cost, 2/3, +1/0 for every enemy creature in this lane. So if we were comparing Alliance War. Oh. I guess every Alliance War orc is in red. If we're comparing this is basically a 1/1 if you mobilize it. A 1/1 that becomes potentially +4/+4, 5/5. It could be a 5/5 for 2 if you played it into a lane that's completely full. Dragon Tail Savior played into a lane that's completely full would be +4, so he'd be a 6/3. So Dragon Tail Savior in a full lane is 6/3. Cruel Axe is a 5/5. Interesting, right? Because Dragon Tail Savior is considered very, very highly, and Cruel Axe, people don't really consider it, people don't really play with it much. Potentially, because I think Mobilize is great, while Mobilize is great. In Cruel Axe's case, it has the problem of what if you wanted to play it into a lane, and there's already an allied creature in it. That is an awkward situation, because Dragon Tail Savior kind of diversifies your threats and puts another, like let's say you have a guy in that lane and you just put him there. In the situation where you don't want the you want the mobilize to go off, but if you already have a guy, a creature in that lane, it won't mobilize. You have to equip it on that person, and maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe there's a lethal. Maybe there's some kind of board state that you just want 2 guys instead of 1. But Cruel Axe does seem playable if you were playing it first. So if sequencing matters, right? So if you played it into a full lane, like Shadow Lane's full of enemy creatures, you played it first, and then you played another card. Then you get your 2 bodies, and then you got a very reasonably statted 5/5 creature for 2, right? I think this card. I mean, and the worst case scenario, the thing is, the worst case scenario of this card, the very downside of this card is 2 drop for a 1/1. So like if you play this on an empty lane, he's a 1/1. If you put him in front of one guy, he's a 2/2, which is objectively bad when you compare it to Dragon Tail Savior, who when put in front of a single player enemy creature is a 3/3. Right? So that means in order for Cruel Axe to be better than Dragon Tail Savior, you need to put it in front of 2, 3. What is it? 3. Like you need to put it in front of 3, because if you put it in front of 3 guys, it's a 4/4. Versus if you put Dragon Tail Savior in front of 3 guys, he's a 5/3. So that's a thing. It's like, is it like, do you want a 5/3 or do you want a 4/4? And Dragon Tail's 3 toughness, I think, is really important to a lot of people, because there are a lot of 2 attack creatures, thinking Daggerfall Mages, Wardcrafters, that 3 statted body is considered very tough for a 3-drop, 2-drop, excuse me. It's good enough. Survives Firebolt, for example. Doesn't die immediately to Curse, right? Market runs Curse and stuff like that. And it has the upside of becoming a 6/3. And sometimes you only care about that super, like for Dragon Tail Savior, what people do like about that 6 attack is he can trade up. Like you're using Dragon Tail Savior to, like, you're putting him in a lane full of creatures. It means that you're planning on sending him into someone, probably. More likely than not, you're sending him into a creature, and hopefully you're taking out, like you can take out a Phalanx Exemplar with Dragon Tail Savior. So, Cruel Axe, because its resemblance to Dragon Tail Savior, I believe it makes it a playable card, especially in Arena. The potential of actually being equipped as an item, if you put it on a creature that in a full lane, it's a +4/+4 for a 2-drop. It's acceptable. It's acceptable, right? Battle Mace is +4/+0. Ward for 4. Cruel Axe is +4/+4. Given the condition, it's a full lane of enemy creatures. So in that case, it has the flexibility of not only pseudo Dragon Tail Savior, it has this flexibility of a pseudo battle mace, in purple colors. And I believe someone said items have charge, and that's another way to think about items, is they do have charge. So if there were 4 enemy creatures, so this I said someone says items have charge, and they do, because if you have a creature that can attack and you just put Cruel Axe on top of it, you can send 4 damage to face. So in a way, it's a pseudo Cliff Racer. So if you have under the conditions that you have a creature that the opponent has put four creatures in front of it, and the creature is already able to attack, and none of those 4 creatures have guard, or maybe you packed a Hush so you could silence that 1 guard in front of you, Cruel Axe suddenly becomes a 2-drop Cliff Racer. So this card, you could squeeze a lot of value out of this card. It requires setup. It does require it may require your opponent to sort of play into it, but you can, if you have this card in your hand, you can sort of change your gameplay plan to somehow set them up to get 4 cards into a lane, right? And if you create those conditions, it becomes a very magical, efficient thing. It's a 50% off Cliff Racer in some cases. It's a very fat Dragon Tail Savior in other cases. And in some cases, it's a potato 1/1. And like personally, never play this mobilize on an empty lane. That's the easiest way to not have a potato situation, right? If it basically reads, play me into the empty lane, I'm a 1/1, don't do it. It's just never going to be worth it. Just wait and use it as an item, especially if you have a creature and they put a lot of guys there, you can use that as a very cheap combat trick. So I think this card has my approval. I think, especially in Arena. In Constructed, I think it could work. The problem with this why do people have to sing when I'm recording? In Constructed, I think this card could work. Now, running 3 of them might be... And if you did run this in Constructed, it would definitely be a surprise, because this card is not seen in Constructed. It's a new card from the set. People don't really play with it. People don't think about it. But if you really break it down, because of its potential, it could literally be what you needed to just finish out the game. There's so many times, like, I'm running Plunder in my Covenant deck. By running Plunder, I'm basically saying I just want items that do +2 damage. Really, like when a person like me has Plunder in their deck, they just want any item. Like when I'm using Plunder, I'm just hoping for something like Cruel Axe to just come in handy, so I have just enough Magicka to throw it onto the creature and just kill them. And usually, if you're running like an aggro Covenant deck and you're using Plunder, like if you're using Plunder like I am, it means they have a lane full of enemy creatures right in front of your creatures, because they're trying to stop your attack and you're trying to finish them off. So maybe I should cut Plunder and put Cruel Axe, because it does the same thing, right? With a little bit more reliability. One of the worst things about Plunder is when you use Plunder, you don't know what the hell you're getting. So sometimes you're going to get like 5. It has such a wide variance. When you use Plunder, it's high rolling. Sometimes you get 2 items that are too expensive, and sometimes you get 2 items that are too cheap. And they're too cheap, and they just don't, they like +1, +0, or you +0, +6. Like you get those items on, that happens when you use Plunder all the time. And even then, Plunder still feels like a good card. So, and it's usually most of the time when you use Plunder, you're only using 1 out of those 2 cards, to be really honest. So Cruel Axe could be a Plunder replacement. So, but I would need to experiment and give it a try. Probably not this month because of qualifiers, but like, I think it's interesting because I found out about qualifiers sort of like when they were happening. Like, whoa, next week there's going to be an Elder Scrolls Legends tournament. That like changed how I was playing this month to go like, I'm much more of a relaxed, experimental, interested in trolling a little bit kind of player. But then I suddenly was forced into this, oh, maybe I should try hard. Maybe I should. And my collection was so incomplete. So I was like, it was weird. Like, if I had a complete collection going into these Master Series qualifiers, I think I would have done a lot better in the first and second, and possibly in the third, because it was by the third Master Series qualifiers that I finally have good cards. Like I actually have good cards now, but before then, not so much. But yeah, so I can't experiment with this kind of card yet, probably. Because there's so little time, right? There's like one more week, and then there's another qualifier. Or the last qualifier. Imperial Lackey. 2-drop, 2/2, Last Grasp. If you have another creature in each lane, summon a 1/1 recruit in each lane. So, best case scenario, this guy was 2-drop for a delayed 4/4 body split into 3 bodies. I think, first of all, these cards that have, if you have another creature in this lane, blah, 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 especially it says summon if you have another creature in each lane, those cards are actually really hard to trigger in Constructed because people lane hug really hard in Constructed, and it's hard to actually guarantee at an early stage that you it's hard to guarantee in the early game or the late game that you like in the early game, like you got this on turn 2. Do you really have people in the other lanes yet? No. If so summon becomes kind of difficult, but this one's different because it's Last Grasp, where it's kind of like, hey, you could play this guy on turn 2, and then you could set it up later when he dies, or your opponent could potentially just play around it because they can kill creatures in the other lane and then kill him. And Imperial Lackey was 2 for 2/2, which is below top par. So I'm not a fan. These if you have another creature in each lane in Constructed, doesn't feel, it feels too conditional, and if the upside is not good enough, it's really not even worth building a game plan around. Especially, like, there are creatures that have this, if you have another creature in each lane, that are really good. Like the plus, there's one that Zealot that says +0/+5 in willpower. That thing is a Arena All-Star. So those abilities really shine in Arena, from my experience, because in Arena, people don't have that much removal. They don't really have board removal. Control decks aren't really a thing. Everyone's just playing tempo. It's basically who can control the board with good tempo swings and who can manage card resources better. That's the name of the game. So in that situation, a card like this and other cards with this, if you have another creature in another lane, become suddenly way more viable because it's very easy to trigger that off, to get that going. If you were to run this card, I feel like these 1/1 recruits are very, very weak and not that good unless you have things like Empire Oathman. Or you have those, there's quite a few cards in Arena specifically that say strategic planning or something like create 2 1/1s in each lane, and then you have these cards that can buff all your 1/1 recruits or all your creatures all together. I think Divine Fervors, that's when you start to really get Imperial Lackey value where you need it to be. If you're not getting that kind of value off of Imperial Lackey, it's not good enough. So if you get this 2 cost for 2/2, and then conditionally that your opponents could react to and then shut it off, the Last Grasp, 2 delayed 1/1s, because when those 1/1s summon, you can't even attack with them, and like that makes you in an awkward situation where it's like, is this an aggressive card? Because it, like, there's so much lag time between him getting played and then you getting those 1/1s. It may not even it may never happen. Those 1/1s may never show up, or if those 1/1s show up, they might show up like 2 or 3 turns later. So because Imperial Lackey's got such a weak stat line that he can get ignored, right? So it can be a little questionable. I mean, who knows? You could even get hushed and silenced. If someone was really threatened by Imperial Lackey, they could silence it, right? But one of the good things about being such a weak power or weak ability is people will usually ignore it. And because they'll ignore it, they're not going to silence it. So because of that, it becomes more probable that you'll get the ability off in the first place. But in the world of Constructed, if this guy triggers like 2 turns later, he's going to be Ice Storm food. The board clears in constructed. Poisoned Dagger. 2-drop, mobilize, lethal, +1/+0. The first person who played this with any success against me was Matt Oblivion. He put it in a sleigh deck. Like, he put this thing there as a pseudo Old Velothi. And I think he was just experimenting with it, but I lost to it. So it basically, I mean, it could do what an Old Velothi does. Is it better than Old Velothi? I know it's old. I'm just calling it Old Velothi. The Old Velothi guy is super good. Like, that's a 2-drop rally lethal 1/2 classic. It's one of like the most threatening 2-drops Endurance can possibly play. It's like when if your collections are kind of weak and you're looking for things to craft and you want a very high impact scary card that even at the top level people get nervous seeing, Old Velothi Assassin is a great card. I mean, if that thing lives, the value it represents is phenomenal. Like, getting multiple rally triggers, controlling an entire lane because the lethal, it demands a response, and immediate response. People lightning bolt Old Velothi Assassins. Lightning bolt's 4 cost, Old Velothi is 2. So if they lightning bolt it, you just netted a 2 Magicka profit, right? Does Poison Dagger demand the same response? I don't think so, because rallies is missing. So if you play a naked Poison Dagger, it is objectively worse to me than a Old Velothi, because there are a lot of 1-attack creatures, especially in green, like Thieves Guild Recruits. There's a lot of things that can be put in front of it to just stop it. So the +1/+0 just means it's a 2/1. So its advantage over Old Velothi is 100% more attack. But Old Velothi's actually 1 attack is what makes it even more dangerous. The 1 attack means that it can attack the face without breaking a rune potentially 4 times. And then therefore, so like, people view the 1 attack as better than 2 attack because it means that he can get 4 rally triggers off potentially, healing not included, without giving your opponent an additional card resources. Poison Dagger, people might even encourage you to attack them because, first of all, 2/1 body's not even that hard to deal with later at any point in the game. Not hard to deal with. If you can deal with it with a Thieves Guild Recruit or a Camel, a Merchant's Camel, very popular card, nobody's going to break a sweat. They would actually want you to hit them 3 times so they can get the extra card. Now, the plus side of Poison Dagger is that it has that mobilize component. You could put it on a Camel. So, Poison Dagger, but that's kind of funny. Like, look, if you're going to put this on a Camel, I mean, you could put it on a Camel. So you put a Merchant's Camel down, and then let's say you don't use, your opponent has some big Phalanx Exemplar, you put it on a Camel, Camel kills it, trades in. What's that? That's a 6 for 5. That's a 6 for 5, because the Camel is going to die. So, in a perfect world, you probably wouldn't want to put on Camel to trade into a big body. You'd probably want to put it on something else. But if you put it on a Camel and you trade into another creature, it can start taking out other creatures as well, right? So it is cheap. It is a cheap source of lethal. It could be mobilized and used Archer's Gambit like that. That's how Matt Oblivion was using it. But the lack of rally means that it doesn't need to be responded to immediately. And Old Velothi does the same thing, but better from a mobilized point of view. From an item point of view, like giving a creature lethal, is that not worse than the green card that is 2 cards? So there's the green card, right? The green card that is give this creature lethal. That's questionable. There's a green card that splits into 2 from Isle of Madness. Says 2 cost, give a creature lethal this turn. And usually when you give creatures lethal this turn, you're basically doing a suicide mission and trading something small into something big. So you don't really care if he gets lethal and stays on the board. Poison Dagger has the upside of you gave a creature lethal, if it survived, it's still there. It still has lethal. It will continue so, unless he gets silenced, right? I think in Arena, Poison Dagger is a great card. a 2/1 with lethal is threatening. It can control lane. The ability to be a permanent sort of source of lethal, like I would always draft that green card, for example, because it's a card advantage card. Not only does it, I would draft it even if it was just two magicka give me lethal, but then the 6-drop 4/6 lethal is kind of an additional card resource to play when I ran out of cards. I think that's like a perfect kind of arena based card. This card is, I think, better than that card in some situations, but it's worse than that card in most situations. First of all, it doesn't come with a second card. Second of all, it is not usually necessary for your lethal creature to survive, and the best targets for your lethal creatures are the weak creatures that you can't do anything else, so you trade them in. So the suicide missions are the highest value lethals, in my opinion. But playable, and probably better than a lot of your other draft picks. Black Marsh Prodigy. Argonian 1/1 veteran +4/+4. I think I should give this creature a try in Constructed. I ran against a guy who's running a veteran deck. Using the Ebonheart Taskmaster, Mournhold Taskmaster in Ebonheart colors, 5/4/4 magicka cost. Give all your creatures with veteran keyword charge. That card was made for this card, and that's a very, very powerful card. And I have not dedicated a full veteran deck, but I just saw someone play a full veteran deck against me, and it was very frightening. Like it was like you can't take Mournhold Taskmaster. If you cannot take Mournhold Taskmaster down, you lose. It's basically what happens, because he just starts throwing down Cliff Racer after every card becomes a Cliff Racer. And this guy's no difference. He's a 3-drop that becomes, sure, he pings you for 1, then he becomes a 5/5 with Mournhold Taskmaster. So this card was made for that other card. They were like, they're on the same sort. They were designed to be played together. In Arena, I think this guy's an all-star. He is, I would consider it is a little dangerous. It's a little dangerous to get this guy in, because like, okay, there are ways to beat this guy up, right? Like, okay, you put him if you don't control the field lane and you put him in the field lane, he's just going to get killed the next turn by somebody. If you put him in the shadow lane and they put a guard in front of him, you probably don't have any way to actually trigger the veteran and keep him alive. So you need something. He needs to be played with somebody big, just like the Shadows. And it seems like the Black Marsh Prodigy is going to take out someone huge, like some giant Shadow is. But he does seem to need a friend to get maximum value. Whether it's a Mournhold Taskmaster in Constructed, I think that makes him very playable, because you could put 3 Mournhold Taskmasters in your deck. You could put 3 Black Marsh Prodigies in your deck. In Arena, you can't really. You don't have that level of deck building control. So if you were to draft him, you're really drafting him as like, hey, I need to protect this guy and get him to be 5/5. And in any card game, you should view the cards in your hand as, look, once they're in your hand, you want to maximize the amount of value you can get from the card. If you playing well means that you played your cards to the maximum value you could get with imperfect knowledge. Because you don't know what your opponent's hand is. You don't know what's in your opponent's deck. And because of those reasons, you could only do things to the best of your ability based on limited knowledge. So Black Marsh Prodigy is a card that when you have it in your hand, you're like, how can I play my other cards in my hand in such a way that I can set up Black Marsh Prodigy and get a 5/5 for just 3 magicka? Because if you get a 1/1 for 3 magicka, you are incurring a huge tempo loss. So you do need to trigger the veteran, because 3 magicka for 1/1 makes him worse than Great Moot Squire more than 3 times. Because a 1/1, this is a 1-drop for 1/2. You're getting a 1/1 for 3 times the price. Okay. So you jolly well get him jacked. Covenant Mail. Item. Prophecy Mobilized Guard. I have a strong preference for the red version. There's a red item that is, I believe, +3/+1, Prophecy Mobilized Guard, Covenant Plate. I'm a huge fan of that card. I'm running 2 of those in my Covenant deck. Because, first of all, that card, my rule with Prophecies is I only put Prophecies in my deck if I don't feel bad playing it from hand. +3/+1 for 3 Magicka represents good reach for an aggressive deck that may just want to close out a game, just put it on a card and just finish the game. It also represents an amazing prophecy. Like if people crack Rune and prophecies start flying out, it's a prophecy that literally will change the game because it's a guard and it'll block. And if you mobilize that red one, it'll be a 4/2, and a 4/2 is not going to live any type of trade, but that 4 attack line means it can take out the majority of your opponent's threats, including young mammoths and injured Bleak Coast trolls. That's kind of the golden standard. Can a card take out a young mammoth or a Bleak Coast troll? This one has the flip stats. This is a 2/4 and a 2/4, right? And I'm not too interested in this one because a 4/2 that can take out a very aggressive creature that's going for my face is more important than the guard actually living. Because let's say this comes off of a prophecy. What if the creature that's going to attack it is a Sower of Revenge? It means that the 4 defense was useless. I mean, it was as if you had 1 defense. Or 1 defense, 2 defense, 5 defense. They're all the same thing if a Sower attacks it. And it doesn't even leave a scratch on the attacking creature. So basically, when you have more toughness in this case, it only comes into play if and only if the attacker has less than 4 attack. But if they have more than 4 attack, it's as if you only had 1 defense, right? And then another way of looking at it is mobilizing this. This will only do 2 damage to it, so that's only half of what Covenant Plate would do, right? And then in an aggressive list, Covenant Plate would be better because let's say you have to play this from hand. This feels like a real potato played from hand. 3-drop for a 2/4 guard. I mean, it kind of looks like the blue card, the blue prophecy card. So it's slightly better than that. I think there's a 2/4 prophecy card, Camlorn Hero, if I'm not mistaken. But so it's not like terrible. It's not magic inefficient. You're getting a 3/3. You're getting 3/3 worth of stats for a prophecy card. It's pretty good. Usually prophecies cards, in order to balance them, the game designers made prophecy cards weaker than their non-prophecy counterparts because prophecy has the added potential of just coming off for free, right? So you could play this from hand, but the 4/2 reach, I just like the idea of okay, what if you're in a game where your opponent's not even attacking you? There's a control matchup. If you're in a control matchup, do you wish you had more 2/4 guards? No, you just wish you could put a 4 attack, +4 attack, or +3 attack if you mobilize, right? Not if you don't mobilize, if you just equip as an item. That +3 attack could be much more relevant than +1 attack, right? That's 3 times worse. So this is 3 times worse as an equipped item attacking than Covenant Plate. And 3 times worse is not okay. It's 3. It's not even just 2 times worse, it's 3 times worse. Supply Runner. Hello, let me see. Is Covenant Mail still an orc? I thought they changed that. I thought they wanted it to be that, but they didn't. Wait, I don't think it's an orc. I read somewhere that they changed it. At one time it was, but they basically, it should say item plus type orc, but no longer. They gave some strange design choice reasons. I read the article on it, and I don't remember why, but I do remember them saying that it was an orc at one time, but it's no longer an orc. Supply Runner, Imperial, 3/1, summon. If you have another creature in each lane, gain +1 max magicka. Okay, in Constructed, these summon if you have another creature in each lane becomes more and more difficult. It's just, more difficult and constructed because if you're against an aggressive deck, the aggressive deck will try to control the field lane. Okay, they'll put guys in the field lane over and over again, and they'll value trade. So they're killing everybody they see in that lane, right? They have access to a lot of combat tricks. You'll hear me see combat tricks a lot because I'm playing a very combat trick heavy deck, which basically says I'm putting guys in the field lane and I'm inviting you to come to the field lane. And if you come to the field lane, you're going to get Wardcrafted, you're going to get Cloud Rest Illusionist, you're going to get Shining Sainted. So Supply Runner in these, if you have another creature in each lane, these cards kind of play into that game plan where they're basically, first of all, if you are setting yourself up in two different lanes, you're actually dividing your forces and you're weakening your both lanes would be stronger if all the units were in one lane, right? You're weaker because they're divided. And if your opponent is concentrating all their force in a single lane, you're going to get whooped, right? Because if they put all their guys in that lane and you're putting half your guys in that lane, that guy is going to get eaten alive. So we live in a world where the 2-drop of choice is the Mournhold Trader 4/4, right? And if he's in the field lane and you've got Supply Runner in, like how Supply Runner is the kind of card you don't feel good when you see a Mournhold Trader because it's like, I'm probably going to have to play this naked into the Mournhold Trader, a turn after the Mournhold Trader, and it will not even trade into the Mournhold Trader. Like, this thing will die. Like, if the Mournhold Trader is in that lane, you should be pretty confident they're going to start throwing all their other guys in that lane, more likely than not. And when they start throwing other guys in that lane, they will have some guys who can trade into Supply Runner if they want to preserve damage off of the Mournhold and just go face. Or Mournhold will just go to the Supply Runner and just eat him up. So it's one of the downsides of this card. However, it should be noted that the presence of these cards like Strategic Deployment, Imperial Recruiter, these are increasingly making it easier to trigger this card. So Empire Recruiter, played on turn 2, pilfers, he'll create the conditions for Supply Runners. Like that's probably the perfect situation, right? Because that way you didn't have to play a card in both lanes. So tokens can enable this. But that also puts us in a funny situation. Do token-based decks even care about ramping? Because this is a ramp card, right? You could view this as an inconsistent ramp card. You need to be able to get 2 guys on the board. The easiest way to do that might be tokens. If you use tokens like Empire Recruiter in this, are you trying to ramp into anything? Like, +1 Max Magicka is a great thing. But is it really that important? Is your deck going to be really taking advantage of that +1 Max Magicka? Or is it just like, oh, I'm getting +1 Max Magicka, and by the way, my next turn, I might play some cards a little bit faster, but after that, my end game is just not there. In a deck that's seriously trying to ramp, Thorn Hissmage and Treeminder are just way better than Supply Runner because they're actually consistent and they're actually necromancerable. Supply Runner is not necromancerable. Ordurnian Necromancer cannot bring him back from the grave immediately, barring Divine Fervors, etc., to buff him to 4/4 stat line. So I'm a little concerned. I'm not convinced. Like, if you cared about ramping, Treeminder's objectively better because he's going to ramp you every single time. And in many, many cases against aggressive decks, because ramping decks usually are non-aggressive decks, right? Because if you're ramping, you're trying to get to later win conditions faster, not trying to close out your opponent immediately. So if you're trying to close out your opponent immediately and ramp your Max Magicka, it's kind of a funny mid-range place to be. It's possible. It's possible, but I mean, like, Empire Oathman's 4. It's a 4-drop. So what would you be wanting to ramp into? Because if you played Supply Runner on 3, you're basically going to 5 Magicka the next turn. Isn't Empire Oathman probably the best 4-drop of choice in those situations? You could say 5. Okay, that +1 Max Magicka lets me dump my hand faster. I do 2-drop, 3-drop, or I do Ring of Magicka, Police Coast Patrol, something. You'd completely empty your hand if you were an early game based strategy, at which point that whole ramping was probably not even that valuable after that turn. Like if you ramped that +1 into this early game strategy, tokens, Empire Recruiter, Oathmans, your hand's going to be empty and you're going to later on have a lot of Magicka and nothing to do with it. These are some concerns of this card. So I like to see people, I mean, I don't really, it's hard. With the 1 toughness, like if this guy had a little bit more toughness, I think he can be considered a little bit more highly. But with this 1 toughness, he's kind of like the Poison Dagger. He's just, his armor is made out of paper, right? This is just, anything can kill him. That's basic, anything can kill him. A Guildsworn, the 1/5 that can heal, I forget what it's called, that can kill him. That should be a little concerning. Consider that's a 2-drop. Let's go to Empire Oathman. Yeah, they changed it. Empire Oathman, Imperial 4/4. Summon if you have a green card in play, give other friendly creatures +1/+0. Willpower card in play, or yellow, give other friendly creatures +0/+1. I think Empire Oathman is an amazing card. And I'm just going to open my friends list for a second because there is someone else who must really think so because he named his account Empire Oathman. So this guy, he's ranked 35. He's doing great, okay? I don't believe his name was Empire Oathman before because I'm pretty sure he was playing Elder Scrolls Legends before they were Empire Oathman. He requested probably from Bethesda support, can I please change my name to Empire Oathman? And they gave it to him, all right? He's got that much love for this card. Must say something. It's like a shining recommendation. He thinks this card's amazing. I mean, I've been playing Ladder and I've ran into him over and over again, and he's actually playing Empire Oathman decks nonstop. So he's repping the card and he's doing great with it. And let's get into why. Why is this card good? First of all, I'm pretty happy with all the Oathmen except for Ebonheart, which is kind of sad because Ebonheart was my favorite class. And Ebonheart Oathman is the hardest one to get full value out of, in my opinion. All the other Oathmen, Dominion Oathman, the best 1-drop in the game, to me, at least. Guildsworn Oathman, dude, thing is amazing, 4/6. I think I talked about it for 30 minutes in the Willpower review alone. Whose other Oathmen are there? Dominion Oathman, Covenant Oathman. Dude, Covenant Oathman can pull like a +6/+6 Cloak and Dagger combo. Like, so the Oathman guys got a lot of love in this set. Like, they all punch above their weight, except for Empire Oathman, which still punches above its own weight. It's just harder to trigger compared to these other guards. So Empire Oathman is basically a turn 4 Divine Fervor with a body, which is crazy if you think about it, because Divine Fervor is a 5 Magicka cost card. And this is a 4 Magicka Divine Fervor, so it's cheaper right there. It's not permanent. It's not permanent in the sense that it will not buff newer creatures that are put on the board after Empire Oathman, but it can't be removed easily. Like if you have Empire Oathman come down, it's not like, ooh, he just put down Divine Fervor, let's use Shadowfen Priest, remove it. Empire Oathman's like, you've got now 5 or 6 guys potentially that you have to silence, which is impossible. How can you silence 5 or 6 guys? You can't. There's no card. I mean, Red Brahmin, using Falkirth Defiler, Squish the Wimpy with having used Merchant's Camel to deposit a Red Braum in the grave might be able to do something, but generally speaking, when Empire Oathman comes down, the decks running him have cards in both lanes, they're very aggressive, and they're getting jacked fast. It's a problem. It's a real problem. Like, it's a snowbally card that when he comes down, usually Empire Oathman doesn't die the turn he comes down, because like when Empire Oathman comes down, there are so many threats on the board, Empire Oathman will usually be able to sneak in and attack. So he represents damage usually on his own. I think this card's even worth playing. He's actually so good that if a person was playing a scout deck, aggro scout deck, they could probably run him. The reason is, you don't actually, if you're aggressive, you don't even care about +0/+1. You care about +1/+0. Think Orc Clan Captain. He's basically Orc Clan Captain for everybody everybody on the board if there's a green creature in play. Weech is pretty easy to trigger. If you have an Empire Recruiter, by the way, which is multicolored green, purple, yellow, it would automatically trigger this because that guy counts as willpower and agility. Same thing, if you have a Nasi, if you have a card that is green and yellow, it would qualify Empire Oathman. Like Empire Oathman would be able to trigger off of a single card existing. And that's not ideal, because you'd rather play him with a wide board. But if you can buff just 2 creatures, he's worth it, because he feels like he's an Orc Clan Captain. Orc Clan Captain is a 2 cost, +1, +0 to everybody in his lane. This guy is 4 cost, 4/4, so pound for pound, it's the same thing as Orc Clan Captain. But he does it on both lanes, with the condition that he can't do it if the only thing that with Empire Oathman is if you got bricked on only purple creatures in your hand, then he doesn't do anything. But the onus is on you. You can control when you play Empire Oathman, so no one says you have to play him earlier. You can wait. If you only have purple cards in your hand, just wait. It's pretty simple. And if you keep on drawing only purple cards, then you should go back to your deck building and say, well, I obviously have too many purple cards. Maybe I need to balance it out. If you didn't know, you could click into your deck. You can click in your deck list, and it'll tell you right here how many blue, yellow, and green, or whatever color combination you're running, and you can be like, I want to make sure that they're a little bit more balanced. Or like, if I have too many purple cards, you could see it immediately. I highly advise players to look at these stats a little bit more carefully. These ones to see your colors, and here these your power curve, to really get a gauge on, okay, you could use this to your advantage to analyze your deck and say, how can I make my deck better for what I'm facing? And if you ask yourself the right questions and you're like, okay, well, if I'm losing on turn 4, maybe you need to strengthen your deck turns 1 through 4, right? And get more 1 through 4 cards, right? If you have a hand that consisted of, like, I just drew 5 cards that I can't play until turn 8, then you probably have way too many 7+ cards. Like, you don't need that many 7+ cards to win the game. Don't think I need every single high-costed card in the game to win the game. You just need these win conditions, or these big tempo swings, these big boys. You only need a few of them if you've been pushing an aggressive win condition off of the back of something like Empire Oathman. So if you're playing an Empire deck and you've tried, the only deck that I haven't seen really play this is a Conscription Empire deck. But people went from a few weeks ago, Empire was good for Conscription, using Divine Fervors, using Praetorian Commanders, to currently using a lot of Empire Oathman style decks and just say, look, we're going to present a very, very wide board, turns 1 through 3. We play the Empire Oathman on turn 4. Opponents can't answer, and we just keep on dropping threat after threat. That's the current metagame. It's bound to change. Deck types change really fastly. Within these tournament weeks, it's getting accelerated. Spiny Hoj Moda. Spiny Hoj Moda. Summon +4/+4 for each Spiny Hoj Moda in your discard pile. I've seen only 2 people use this card effectively. Earl Meister played an Animal Beast deck. This card was made for a beast deck. I think he called it like a Jurassic Park deck because he had, like, I don't know, lots of beasts. And some other guy, I have no idea what their name is. That guy actually triggered the Spiny Hoj Moda, actually getting like an 8/8 4/4 drop, which is crazy if you think about it. This card could be a 12/12 for 4 Magicka. A 4/4, so 4 for 4/4 is a little bit like, okay, I think this card is completely playable and constructed. It's completely unplayable in Arena. It's unplayable in Arena because only if you're really lucky are you going to draft any more Spiny Hoj Modas. Like, the chances of drafting more than one is very slim, so you're really high rolling if you pick this up. Because, like, what if you picked it up and then the next one, you pick it up and then you don't see one, or you pick it up, you don't pick it up and then you see one. It's like, I would steer clear of it because 4 for 4/4 is a little bit below. 4 for 5/5 is is the gold standard, Bleak Coast Troll. But now 8/8 for 4 is so high above average. Like, it's so good at 8/8 for 4 that I think this card was meant for a dual color deck. A dual color deck is better than a tricolor deck for this card because basically for this card to work at maximum effect, you want to see it on turn 4 and you want to have another one in the grave somehow, some way. And the way you're going to do that are things like Merchant's Camel. You can do that with Corner Club, Gambler. If you can get this guy 8/8 on turn 4, it doesn't guarantee a win because there's a lot of single target removal in the game, but it's definitely considerable threat for an aggressive deck. And I think the Beast archetype has enough beasts at the moment to be playable at a high level. It's a surprise deck because people don't really, it's kind of offbeat and not meta, but it's cool to see that Elder Scrolls Legends has room for these kind of tribal decks. I wouldn't exactly bank on Spiny Hajimoda being a great win condition, because even though he's an 8/8, all it takes is a silence, all it takes is a lethal creature, all it takes is a piercing javelin. So in a constructed format, while this could be a surprise, there already are good answers that exist in people's decks, like Slay. Slay would be happy to see this card, right? It's like, what's Slay's dream? Please play a big target so I could just ping him down, right? That's what they're all about. Tribunal, lots of single target removal. So like, he's not perfect, but man, does he have that 12/12 ability. I'd love to see, actually, not only does he have the 12/12 ability, if you used Galen on him, Galen puts 3 more in your deck, right? Those become 7/7s. So if you had let's say that means you have 6 copies. If you had 5 copies in the grave, and you drew a Galen to 1, which is a 7/7 by nature, so 5 plus 5 is 20. It would be a 27/27? What? Really? 5 times... Yeah, it would be a 27/27. If you had a Galen Spiny Hajimoda, and you drew the 6th Spiny Hajimoda and 5 were in the grave, he's a 27/27. I think that's actually kind of amusing. Is there a way to give him charge? Well, not really. But maybe there's a combo with, let's put a improvised weapon and use Unstoppable Rage on him. It's a little bit, it's kind of a meme deck because, like, honestly, it's easier to do it with Flash Atronach. Flash Atronach can just get there easier, I believe. So, but just thinking about it, it's a 27/27 Spiny Hajimoda. That dies to Piercing Javelins. That gets silenced. 1 silence, Shadowfen Priest, 1 hush. He's all the way down to 4/4. So he's not, like, invulnerable. But just think about the power, right? It's exciting. So if you were able to make Spiny Hajimoda work, I mean, hey, you know another way to protect him? What's that Falmer Shadow Master? Give a creature stealth. Give a creature cover and make it untargetable by enemies. Maybe that's a card that you'd want to play. Being a 4-cost, it's so cheap, you can definitely play things like that. What if you wanted to protect your Spiny Hajimoda and give it things like Ebonheart Thread Cloak or whatever? What if you put things like Loot to make it immune to silence? What if there are other ways to protect him and just get 1 attack in? It'd be great. The lack of breakthrough means, though, even if you're a 27/27, if I put a Tree Minder in front of you, you're going to get stopped. Nothing's going to get through. So don't be tricked by me saying, hey, this can be a 27/27. This is an amazing card. It's just that that's crazy, and there are just so many answers to it. So in order to squeeze the maximum value, you need to line up a lot of things. I think there's a lot of setup. It almost becomes a combo deck at a certain point to get it up there. And I don't even think you need it to be a 27/27 to actually get crazy value, because if you think about it, going down by 4s, the 6th one's 27, that means the 5th one is going to be a 23, 4th one, 19, the 3rd one, 15, second one 12. Or two in the grave means you're at 12, excuse me. 1 in the grave meaning you're at 8. 5 in the grave meaning you're at 27, 27. If you use Galen, right? Because it has +3 from Galen. I think I messed up on something I just said right there because I put in Galen and then I missed out Galen, but 27, 27 is the correct. For strategic deployment, summon 2 1/1 recruits in each lane. I think this is a great card for Arena. You're basically paying for 4. You're paying 4 for 4/4 split up into 4 bodies, which isn't bad. Like, while I said 4 for 4 stats is bad, when you split them up, it also means that you're opening it up for things like Divine Fervors. So if this was a 4/4 and you put Divine Fervor down, it would become a 5/5, right? But now you put Divine Fervor down, you're getting 8/8 worth of stats because you have more bodies. So there are ways to synergize with strategic deployment that just make it a good fit. I just noticed in the card art that's Clivia Tharn getting a little bit feisty up there. I can't tell if that's a weapon because what she's holding looks like a scepter. Looks pretty mean. If she hit you with it, it's like a scepter spear. It looks a little bit top heavy, so I'd be very tired carrying that one around. I think this card is reasonable in Arena in Constructed. Look, I played a game against somebody with forward camps and a bunch of token-based strategy, and he even used a card that I said was complete trash, garbage, or I didn't know how it was going to be used. Strategist Map. Strategist Map says 3 charges, create a +0/+1 guard for yourself, or +0/+1 guard for me, for yourself or your opponent. And that guy was able to cobble together a good combo using that card. So sometimes these cards on the surface level might not seem so good by themselves, but in conjunction with the right cards, you can actually multiply the value you're getting out of them. And that's what players should experiment and say, hey, this card, what does it do? Okay. Is it reasonably costed? It's reasonably costed. So if this was played naked without any combos, no Divine Fervors, it's okay. After that, you ask yourself, is there a way to take this card to the next level? So while this card is good by itself, Divine Fervor makes it even sweeter, right? Is there other ways to make it even sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, better and better and better? I think the answer is yes. I'm not an expert at these token-based decks, but this card does seem to be quite playable. Now, is it playable in the same deck that Empire Oathman is in? I think it is, but it is a little bit hard. It's a little bit awkward. Like, the current Empire Oathman deck has a lot of tokens already, and maybe even better and more consistent ways to generate tokens, and you kind of want to curve into your Oathmans. So like, if you had strategic deployment, what do? Do you have 2 of them? If you have 2 copies of this, you might actually accidentally brick yourself and say you have too many 4-drops, right? Because you can't have too many 4-drops. You need to be sort of pacing yourself, pacing your deck, and you should actually think about them in competition with each other. Like, Empire Oathman and strategic deployment are both 4-drops, so they're both competing to be the 4-drop in your deck. And do they both deserve to be the 4-drops in your deck? Maybe strategic deployment has combo potential, but if you're running strategic deployment instead of Empire Oathman, there's a world where there are better cards that synergize even better with strategic deployment that aren't so Empire Oathman focused. Maybe strategic deployment is really a Spellsword card, right? Because like, if you ran 3 copies of strategic deployment, 3 copies of Divine Fervor, you're starting to put yourself in a position where Empire Oathman might be a little weird, because now you're going to make your strategy more inconsistent by introducing green cards that may not be conducive to having that token heavy strategy. Bishop of the Hour. Okay, I'm back. Bishop of the Hour, Imperial. 5/5, summon if you have another creature in each lane. Give the top creature of your deck +5. This card... This card's an interesting one. It continues the tradition of the if you have another creature in each lane thing, which I've already talked about very many times already. So I'm not going to repeat that. This one, the upside of triggering this is insane. You're basically playing 6 Magicka for 10/10 in stats. It's insane. I think in a charge-heavy deck... But this is kind of... It's weird. It's weird. It's insane in my imagination, because I've not played with this card yet, but maybe I can, because I have 3, right? It is insane in terms of 6 for 5/5 is decent. It's decent enough. People play Abner Tharn, and Abner Tharn's a 6 for 5/5. Summon if you have another creature in each lane. +5/+5. This seems like a all-star instant pickup for Arena, for sure. Easy to trigger. The upside of getting +5/+5 is crazy. That means your next card is going to help you close out the game. Right? Must be giving a very inspirational sermon, this Bishop. Something that really got that your next card super hyped. Now, in Constructed, this card has such a meaningful ability, in my opinion, that you would almost want to build a deck around Bishop of the Hour. One of the guys I played in the tournament two weeks ago, Hakia, who also became a viewer, was talking to me about this card and showing me like a deck, and he thinks that running an Ebonheart aggro deck, it would be amazing. And I said, look, after this month, I'll give it a try. So I haven't given it a shot, but I mean, just imagine if you had a Cliff Racer, Tyro. Tyro is a what, 3/4, so he becomes an 8/9. Cliff Racer is a 9/9 charge. If you run enough charge creatures, Bishop of the Hour can do some incredible things. I wonder if there's even a world where somebody tries some cool deck that you're using Ulfric's Uprising with Bishop of the Hour. I mean, that's like a really greedy, and it's probably kind of like it can be done. I think it can be done. It takes skill, it takes planning, and it takes try-harding to another level to pull off Bishop of the Hour with Ulfric's Uprising. But and this card doesn't really do anything to actually stabilize you, which is kind of a problem for control decks. Because control decks right now are in a tough spot. Anybody running a control deck needs to be strong enough early game to survive the most aggro v aggro, and the strong enough late game to beat the most strong control decks in the game. The problem with this whole +5/+5 thing is if you give it to somebody without charge, it's basically not going to do anything versus top tier control decks. You give a Thieves Guild Recruit +5/+5, and you play a 6/7 Thieves Guild Recruit. There are too many answers to this in the meta, right? Yeah, so there are too many answers to that. Given the charge creature is the most optimal use case because you can immediately make use of the +5/+5. This card would also be interesting with Galen because he's kind of Galen-y. So like him and Galen probably have some kind of synergy, and maybe there's even some kind of loop, right? Night to Remember could give the same creature on the top 10/10. So there could be OTK combos in here, but the problem is, in order to get that OTK combo off, you need to survive the aggro decks, which means a majority of your deck would need to be devoted to surviving aggro decks. He's too slow probably to even really take an effect against Swindler's Market decks, which dominate the meta. And Swindler's Market's deck would kind of laugh at you if that card's not in charge, because they can just shackle you over and over again, right? But if it did have charge, it could be relevant, but you have no way of controlling that deck consistently, at least from what I understand. It's very difficult to have to put in cards into this deck that would control what's on the top of the deck without sacrificing either early game or late game. Against the late game decks, if he's not a charge creature, it's not threatening enough, and the kind of control options, like the kind of win conditions that Bishop of the Hour seems like a win condition type card that you need to build the deck around, that when compared to other win conditions might not be consistent enough and might not be as strong as them, right? I think today I was playing Life with Cena, a game against Life with Cena, and I brought Odoving out on turn 4 using Falkirth Defiler. And then he killed Odoving, and then I brought Odoving back on turn 5, and then he left the game, right? So like, that's what you call a very strong, robust, consistent late game that has the upside. I could bring Odoving out on turn 4. Bishop of the Hour's not coming fast enough. You cannot compete with that kind of speed. Black Marsh Centurion. 6 cost, 4/8 veteran guard. Argonian. This guy's all-star in Arena. What are you getting? You're getting actually 6/6 worth of stats for 6 drop. Which is kind of funny because that makes him worse than the Root Bender. Which, for whatever reason, no one seems to play anymore. Which is kind of strange because he's actually really good. The 4 cost epic 6/6 if you have Magicka 7 or more endurance guard Argonian. That guy is super good. So that guy's actually better than Black Marsh Centurion because he consistently gets guard after Magicka 6. You could probably ramp into it faster. So he gets the guard, and his stats get nerfed. Okay, he does get whomped a little bit by Silence because Silence takes out the guard and the stats. Black Marsh Centurion has the advantage of his stats won't be affected by Silence, only the guard component. So this guy is a little bit beefier by nature. 4/8 guard makes him a real pain in the butt. It's really hard to kill him in Arena, barring lethals and javelins, which if your opponent uses those, they probably don't have many more. So they would have to use a very rare type of resource to take him out in Arena. In Constructed, those things are, when your opponents run those kind of things, that's not a rare resource. If they have lethal, they have lots of lethal. If they've got single target removal, they probably got lots of single target removal. And that's why Black Marsh Centurion is kind of a funky place because, look, would a control deck want a guy who needs to wait a turn to be a guard? Probably not, because usually you need a guard right now. Like, you're getting attacked. If you're versus aggro, you need someone who's going to guard you right now. And the first best option is at a 5-drop. So Hive Defender 4-drop, Emperor's Blade 4-drop 4/5, Hive Defender 3/6, 5-drop Phalanx Exemplar 5/6. So 5/6 is actually stronger from an attack standpoint than Black Marsh Centurion, and it has guard immediately. So the fact that it gets the guard immediately and it's earlier is really significant because guard becomes more important the earlier it is. Because who are you guarding against? Aggro decks. 6-drop guard means he's not coming in time. I got eliminated turn 4 by an aggro deck. So if I had a Black March Centurion, he's a dead card. If you're against control, these guards are irrelevant. So the thing is, if you're not against aggro, so if you're against aggro, he's coming down too late, and he doesn't even have guard until the next turn. So he gets guard on turn 7. Okay. Against control, do you care about guard? Half the time, no. Sometimes you do, because in control mirrors, you do need guards here and there, but you don't need guards in the same way as aggro. Guards are really sort of tempo plays, and they're not really there to keep you alive. They might be there to control the board. They might be there to protect a more value threat, like a Andai Clan Sorcerer, protect things like Thadon, maybe control the Thadon Mania lane. Guards have, like people in control matchups, they put guards up, and they're sometimes not even attacking face. But if they are attacking face, it's because they've recognized in the control mirror that they lose the uber late game. Because whenever you ever take two control decks and you put them side by side, one of them is going to have a better late game, and one of them is going to have a better early game. Because one person during deck construction built the deck tuned more to answer early game threats, and one of them tuned to build to beat down control decks more so. If the decks are identical, then that's obviously not true, and decks can get, it's a sliding scale where decks can be very similar in power level with just very, very minute differences. But the thing is, if you are in the control position where you are the weaker late game, you need guys to push damage, and 4-8 is less damage than 5-6, and they die to the same stuff. So like the 8 toughness usually is not relevant because you're talking about things like finish off, destroy a wounded creature. You're talking about things like lethal Archer's Gambit. You're talking about things like unstoppable rage. I mean, is this guy going to survive this stuff? Is it even relevant? So this is a good example of a card that you just feel so amazing. Like you put him in arena, he's just the wall of steel. You put him in constructed, he's homeless. Like he has no home. Like there's no deck that wants him. Now, that being said, with the veteran tag, is there a world where you try him with the Ebonheart guy? Honestly, I would be willing to try it, but I just think it's bad. Like there, maybe 4-8 guard isn't so bad when you have Mournhold Taskmasters. You get charge, so he's a 6-drop charging. He's a 6-drop Cliff Racer that has a 4-8 body who deals 4 damage straight to the face and becomes a steel wall in front of your other threats. That could be a thing. Like, because there are a shortage of veteran creatures that are good enough to be paired with Mournhold Taskmaster. And Guard does become relevant for aggro decks. Like, for example, Candlehearth Brawler. Think of that. This guy could be considered a big boy Candlehearth Brawler. Literally double the stats in the attack department and then +3 defense. The Candlehearth with the Taskmaster, because Candlehearth Brawler is important because he protects your Orc Clan captains, he protects your more vulnerable threats. He usually functions as a burst removal, like he removes things that he removes and trades and things and survives and puts a speed bump for other players trying to deal with. Like, he puts a wall in front of some of your other threats, and so that can be relevant in aggro to aggro mirrors. That can be relevant in aggro to control. But the 6 cost is still very prohibitive for that because Candlehearth Brawler is definitely the opposite of homeless, and he's an all-star in those kind of conditions. Being a 4-drop. And we are now on our final card, Mana Marco. Ebonheart Veteran Control with Night Mother, Najara. That actually sounds that actually sounds like a challenge. Like there are a lot of decks out there that could exist that don't exist very, very well. And I think maybe people like myself should challenge themselves out more, experiment, try to make some of these decks work out, especially earlier in the season. Like once you rank up a little bit, you get more and more conservative because you're basically like, I'm too scared. Like the truth is you're too scared. I'm too scared to play some of these other deck types because it's like those deck types did not rank me up. So if I play those other deck types, my rank will just go grind straight down, right? But earlier in the season when you're trying to rank up, those are always great times to experiment with new deck types. And if something like Veteran Night Mother, as stupid as it sounds, that sounds super fun. Like that just sounds like a challenge. Like it sounds like, okay, I've got this Night Mother, I've got to get it online, I've got Veteran. Like you got two things that you don't think go together, and you're gonna try to make them work. That's how new things happen, right? That's how new decks get discovered. And that's kind of cool too, because that's the exact opposite of Mana Marco. Mana Marco is a card that plays himself and can be put into any deck. Like he plays himself, so he can basically fit in any kind of deck, right? And I think that's kind of like mid-range and up. Okay, and I'm not talking about aggro. So like mid-range to control, I don't care what kind of mid-range deck you are or what kind of control deck you are, you could put Mana Marco in the deck. And that's different from those skill testing other things. It's like, hey, these are not obvious and you need to figure out a way to make things work. And those decks don't play themselves. You have to like find ways to make it work, and it takes a lot of skill, maybe a lot of patience to discover new combos, right? Mana Marco is like not a combo card. It's literally, this card is super high value. If you live long enough to play this card, he's going to do some crazy stuff, probably. Like, because, and I think he's balanced. So it's not, I'm not saying he's imbalanced or anything. Mana Marco, 10 cost, high elf. Okay, he does not look like a high elf. Summon a creature from your opponent's discard pile. So he's got a straightforward, simple ability. Res one of your opponent's cards. So if your opponent has a lot of good stuff in their grave, you're going to get crazy value. You want to get 20. So let's talk about his stat line. 6/6. If anything's an indication, let's say, is 5 Magicka for 6/6 fair? What is a 6/6 that's 5? I'm not even aware of what a 6/6 for 5 is, but we can check right now. All sets 5. So Blood Dragon. So in strength, there are no 6/6. There's a 6/4. There's a 5/6. There's a 6. Okay, Gatekeeper. All right, there we go. Gatekeeper. That's good enough. So Gatekeeper is 5 Magicka 6/6. So that sounds like a golden standard. So you're paying 5 Magicka for his body, 6/6. And that's fair enough because Gatekeeper gets 2 abilities, guard, only 1 creature can attack. So vanilla, 5 Magicka for 6/6. So you're paying 5 extra on top of the body for the ability. So that being said, like if you rezzed Odahviing, Odahviing's 12 cost, 12 minus 5, 7, right? So if you use Mana Marco on an Odahviing, you're getting a net profit of 7, basically, right? Because you're taking into account that you're paying 5 for whatever you're rezzing for, instead of whatever you're rezzing for. So if you res anything worth more than 5, you're net profit. So if you start rezzing things below 5 Magicka, you're kind of overpaying for Mana Marco and the body. So if I Mana Marco a Thieves Guild recruit, right, you made a net loss of 3. You're paying a premium of 3 on Magicka on top of the Thieves Guild recruit. So what you're looking to res then is things that are more than 5. Greater than, so if you want to break even, equal 5. Res a guy that's 5. Hallowed Death Priest. That's reasonable, right? Mana Marcoing a Hallowed Death Priest isn't the worst thing. It's not the best thing. So that's what you're paying for. So if you Mana Marco to Death Priest, that's fair. 10 Magicka value. If you go more than that, if you're rezzing a 6-drop, what's a good 6-drop to be rezzing? Cicero. Okay, Cicero feels a little bit better, maybe a little better. Probably if you're rezzing Cicero, you're denying him from doing shenanigans, necromancering him back. Or a necromancer. Mana Marco can go fetch a necromancer, 6-drop necromancer, and use that necromancer to bring back your Cicero from your grave, right? Completely good. Let's say 7-drop. What's a great 7-drop to be taken down? Giant. What's the Belligerent Giant? Mana Marco, you res a Belligerent Giant bounces back. It's worth noting, half the time Mana Marco comes down, it's such a huge tempo swing because Mana Marco himself is a very, very hefty creature. Like, this 6/6, if not dealt with, is going to hurt. And then usually, if we're in the late game, he's going to res something that is even higher impact than the Mana Marco body. Potentially a larger creature. 7, you're talking Belligerent Giant 7/4. At 8 Magicka, Vigilant Giant. These become problems where Dawn's Wrath becomes probably the best answer to Mana Marco. I don't even think an Abner Tharn is a good answer to Mana Marco. It can get you Mana Marco value, but it doesn't answer Mana Marco. So if you Abner Tharn Mana Marco, you could bring something back, but it's probably not going to immediately eliminate Mana Marco and whatever he rezzed, right? It's worth noting, I believe if you use Mana Marco on Sothasil or other exalted creatures, you're going to get even the Arcanon Sarioni. For Arcanon Sarioni, you'll only trigger the summon, and the summon means you'll only get 1 of the 3 blessings. So you'll probably choose the heal, or you'll probably choose the draw. Probably. So the at 9 Magicka, what's a good 9 Magicka target? Night Talon Lord, 10 Magicka, Mana Marco's himself. No, Mana Marco, what's a good 10 drop? Hulking Scalon, 11 drop. Why does an 11 drop in this game? Vanis Galarian, 12 drop Dagoth It's unlikely that you're going to Mana Marco these things. So Mana Marcoing anything above 5, break even, 6 and up, amazing. If you Mana Marco something that like a Dagoth game's probably over, because the Dawn's Wrath aside, even Marok isn't enough. Because Marok's not enough. Because he's only going to take one of them. Right? So I actually skipped a card. I actually skipped 2 cards. 3 cards because I disenchanted them. Good thing I caught that. I didn't even... Did I skip cards last time? No. No, I didn't skip cards last time. Because I forgot to look at this. So Mana Marco is a good craft. So if you're on the fence of like, hey, do I need to craft Mana Marco? I don't think you need to craft Mana Marco, but his power level is such that, hey, if you survive to play Mana Marco, he's a good card. If you cannot survive till Mana Marco, he's a dead card. It's very simple, straightforward, very Marok-like, but he's cheaper than Marok. With Marok, sorry for the background noise. He's got the same potential as Marok. I mean, in theory, you could even say he's better than Marok. He's worse than Marok in some ways because Marok is a tempo swing, taking off a huge threat that's in the board and making it yours. But Abner Tharn immediately counters Marok, right? Mana Marco, if countered by Abner Tharn, is not going to res the same creature. He might res a higher or lower value creature. It really depends on whose grave's bigger, so it's up in the air. But Abner Tharn on Mana Marco does not actually deal with the Mana Marco threat on the board. The 6/6 stat line makes him even beefier than the 5/5 Marok, so he's been working out even harder. And I think control decks that who are stacking their high end, he's the kind of card that you put in if you're stacking your high end. If you're basically like, look, my game plan is I want to go into the late control game and I want to out-control control decks, Mana Marco is a must-have. But if you're basically saying, look, I want to be lean, I want to be able to make sure I can survive all the early game, and my win condition against those uber late control decks is to sort of edge them out earlier, combo them down earlier, thinking of Please Don't Hack Me in Frenzy ones, sort of Ebonheart. Their Ebonhearts, I believe, Ebonheart Slays did not run Mana Marco because they basically said, look, we're not relying on, I'm going to outvalue you with this Mana Marco, these like super big Odavings and all these like super high-end, top-end stuff. We're just going to take you out using Flesh Atronach with Improvised Weapon and Unstoppable Rage. So we've got a win condition, and it doesn't need this kind of high-end, because these high-end cards are indeed dead cards in a lot of matchups. Think Market. If you're Slay versus Market, this is a dead card because this is not going to do anything because the game's not going to go to turn 10 no matter who wins if you're against Market. At least in the games I'm in. So we got actually a couple more. I actually had a Steel-Eyed Visionary. I just disenchanted it to create other stuff. So Steel-Eyed Visionary, Argonian 2/4 veteran, set each friendly creature's power to its health. Again, the only person I've seen play this card well was Earlmeister against me. Earlmeister actually played this with the 1/6 troll dude. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a legendary... Is it a legendary or an epic? it's a troll that's 1/6 every time it takes damage. Right here. Frost Troll, regenerate 1/6. When Frost Troll takes damage, it gains that much power. He used that with this and made this a 6/6 monster. And he used cool combo like Squish the Wimpy. So he used Steel. He used the Steel-Eyed Visionary to attack to buff Frost Troll to 6/6. And then he used the Frost Troll's Squish mechanic to make him take more damage and use the regenerate to make it buffer. I think he turned this into a 12 attack creature. And then I proceeded to kill it with like probably with a lethal ping. So that is he's the only one who's I've seen actually use this to any effect. When I was using this card always did something potato. Like, give you an example. Steel-Eyed Visionary attacks a guard and survives. So if I attack a 3-attack guard and I go to 2/1, this creature sets himself to 1/1. That's what I've done. That's the kind of value I've done with Steel-Eyed Visionary. So he definitely can backfire on himself. But he is a combo card that could make high toughness creatures, including the 0/5 walls, into 5/5 walls. Like that 5, there's a 0/5 guard prophecy in the blue from this set. He can turn that to 5/5. So there are some shenanigans available to Steel-Eyed Visionary. Unfortunately for him, if you built a deck with him in mind and you ran him 3 copies of him, and if your opponent actually felt like if you had a 0/5 wall guard and it is Steel-Eyed Visionary, right? And you played it there, if he can read, he knows, oh, I know what he's doing. So this card, even though you don't see him played a lot, he telegraphs exactly what he's trying to do. He's like Captain Obvious, like, hi guys, I'm trying to turn my 0/5 wall into a 5/5. Which basically means they're going to demand an immediate answer to this. So I mean, they're going to shackle it, they're going to kill him, he is not long for this world if they feel threatened in the least. Now for his stats, 3 for 2/4, he's a little bit below par, but he's okay. He's not bad. If he gets an attack in though and survives and takes no damage, he'll be a 4/4. That's something. But are there enough cards to support his archetype? I think right now, no. It doesn't feel like there are enough cards to do it. So he's a card that would become incredibly more valuable if suddenly they started releasing 1/8s. I mean, isn't there a 0/9 wall? This guy would synergize with the 0/9 wall, the portcullis. All right, I think there's a portcullis. Yeah. So he would synergize with this guy, but wow, portcullis is expensive. A 0/9 for 5 cost? Like, if this was like cheaper, we can be talking, right? But this guy cannot come down earlier than the Steel. I mean, he could come down the turn after Steel-Eyed Visionary. So there is that potential. Alliance War. So more cards like Portcullis that are a little bit cheaper might make this guy a little bit faster. And there is a world where this guy could get charged with Mournhold Taskmaster. But the thing is, the Mournhold Taskmaster strategy seems to be full of cards. I mean, Mournhold Taskmaster himself is a 5/4. So this guy could actually weaken your own cards. If they're a lot of the Ebonheart aggro aggressive cards, their stat lines are more offensive than defensive. So his veteran trigger would make everybody weaker. So that's a little awkward. So does he synergize with that guy? You know, there's a little bit of anti-synergy going on there. But I'm not aware of the other cards other than Portcullis and that Troll that would synergize well with him. If you're aware of them, you can let me know. I'm actually a fan of the art. I'm a fan of the name. The name is really cool. Steel-Eyed Visionary. It would be like, you know, if you wanted to see this card really played, make him a 4/4. Like, that would make him so... Like, you're going to see him auto-included in decks if he was a 4/4/3 with this ability. The reason is he's like young mammoth. with combo potential. And the combo potential doesn't need to get off to get full value. I think that's kind of important. And then he has the downside of if he was a 4/4 and he took damage during his survival attacks trading in, he would basically become weaker, which is a little bit, it feels a little romantic. It's like, one of the things about computer card games that makes it a little unrealistic is like when you fight, two creatures fight, and the creature takes damage, his attack's the same. In real life, that's not the same. If you took two people and they started fighting, and one of them got hurt, their offensive power will degrade along with their physical health, right? If a guy gets punched in the face 10 times, his attack will go down in real life. Zivkin Bane Lord. Hello, Oriath. Zivkin Banelord is a really interesting card. Very interesting. It's an interesting card because it made it to the finals this weekend, and it made it to the finals in the very first qualifier. The first person to bring it to qualifier finals was Really Boo. Really Boo had a Redoran conscription deck, and he ran this card. And that was so cool to see. Because people really hated on this card so hard when it was revealed. As far as I have understood, like people are like, wow, I got a Zivkin Banelord. This card's like auto disenchant. I think people judged this card wrongly and too hard. So this card combos easily with many other cards. This card combos really easily. Let me reread what it does. 7 costs, Zivkin Banelord, Daedra, 1/7 guard. Set the health of each enemy creature in this lane to 1. Okay, first combo, Tiny Dragon. Zivkin Banelord, Tiny Dragon, full clear. Okay, Zivkin Banelord sets everybody to 1 health. Tiny Dragon does 1 damage to everybody in the lane. Easy. How about Pyromancer? Zivkin Banelord plus Skaven Pyromancer, same thing. The only difference is Zivkin Banelord will take 1 damage. 10 Magicka, Dawn's Wrath. But you've developed 2 bodies. Now, people play Dawn's Wrath, and it's 8 cost, destroy a whole lane. But it doesn't develop anything, no guards, it doesn't develop any kind of bodies. Zivkin Banelord plus Tiny Dragon is a 9 cost, developing 2 8 in stats with a guard. What? That's like you get 2 8 means 10 or 5 5 in stats. So you got 5 5 in stats after clearing a lane. So this is 1 Magicka more than Dawn's Wrath, but it gets 5 5 in stats. So you're just paying 8 Magicka for the Dawn's Wrath, and you're paying 1 Magicka for 5 5 in stats. That's one hell of a steal, because 4 Magicka for 5 5 is the market rate for the Magicka. So those are 2 examples of combos with Zivkin Banelord. So if you have a Zivkin Banelord, know right now I'm jealous of you. If you got 2, I'm even more jealous. If you have 3, you should do something with these guys. These guys can be played, and they're good. You don't really need 3. 3 is a little too much because he's expensive. So as a 7-up, he represents in some ways a Dawn's Wrath, right? Representing a Dawn's Wrath, you don't want to put 3 Dawn's Wrath in your deck. They're dead cards against matchups like Market. They're sometimes not useful. Like, they're sometimes not useful. Saying he has a dead card, but dead card sometimes it's like you can't even play it. Like, it's like you don't even have Magicka. You will not get to the Magicka F8 to even play it. Zivkin Banelord's also another combo with him is Ordurnian Necromancer. So let's say you Merchant's Camel Zivkin Banelord. So you see Merchant's Camel, you use Merchant's Camel, and you see the top 3 cards in your deck. Throw away Zivkin Banelord if you have Ordurnian Necromancer. Why? Ordurnian Necromancer can res anything with lower attack than it. Zivkin Banelord having 1 attack is less than 3, therefore Necromancer can bring back Zivkin Banelord, just like Necromancer can bring back Alina Bannock. Alina Bannock, 1/1, 6 cost lethal ping from Archer. Same concept. Zivkin Banelord can be brought back and there's recursion. So that's another reason why you only need to run 2 of him, is because even if he's dead or in the graveyard, you have Eternian Necromancers to bring him back, right? And if you Galen your Necromancers, you can end up having way more than 2 Zivkin Banelords if you just start a loop going on. So that's one way to artificially... That's something that Eternian Necromancers add a lot of value into a deck, is instead of having 3 copies of something like Zivkin Banelord, you only need 2 or maybe even 1 if you don't think you need it that much, because Eternian Necromancer artificially increases the number of Zivkin Banelords in your deck. 1, by giving you access to resin camels to find that 1 Zivkin Banelord, and 2, by actually being able to bring back Zivkin Banelord at a cheaper cost. Because if Necromancer is played, you get Zivkin Banelord value on top of a 3/3 body at 6 Magicka. So Zivkin Banelord, he was played also in today's finals with some kind of scout combo, and I'm not fully familiar with it, but there's an interesting thing that I think it's Shearpoint Dragon. So Shearpoint Dragon seems to be able to instantly kill people. I might be saying this wrong. Oh, yeah, Shearpoint Dragon. If Shearpoint Dragon is on the board with a Zivkin Banelord played, Zivkin Banelord instantly kills things. So the Shearpoint Dragon says, when you reduce a creature's power or health with another effect, reduce it by an extra 1. Zivkin Banelord brings them down to 1. That qualifies as an extra effect, and that instantly kills them. So I think that's a big underestimated combo that I think SN Prook was able to identify. SN Prook was able to identify, and so many people in chat, myself included, were so hyped because we thought that was the coolest deck in the top 8. Like, we really wanted it to win, because the deck it has a lot of cards that people discounted as garbage tier, including myself in my previous set review on agility. But man, just think about it. Shearpoint Dragon's on the board, and you play Zivkin Banelord. Zivkin Banelord instantly kills those things. There was another combo with Zivkin Banelord, and I'm probably... is weakness. I don't know much about this card. Set a creature's health to 1. Okay, so the game plan with weakness is, he had this 3 in this deck. Weakness basically does the same thing. With Shearpoint Dragon says when you reduce a creature's health or attack, do an extra 1. So if you use weakness with Shearpoint, it's an instant kill. So that makes it, with Shearpoint Dragon on the board, this is a 2-cost Piercing Javelin. So that's a card that, cool, I have 3 of, so I could try it out. I mean, I could, but I don't have Zivkin Banelords. Now let's talk about Zivkin Banelord played naked. 7 cost, 1/7 guard. Does it feel bad? Well, he's vulnerable to execute, but in his defense, by the time he's coming down, what are the chances your opponent has held on to an execute for 7 turns? Because execute's a 1-cost card. He probably used it to take off one of your lethal, any of your 2/2s, anything. That's what I would imagine. Execute was already used, and maybe that's a good card that I should add into my Jedi deck. Execute synergizes well with Cloud Rest Illusionist. If you're unaware, using Cloud Rest Illusionist -4, -0 onto things like Phalanx Exemplar turns it to a 1/6. Execute reads, if this creature has power 2 or less, kill it. Execute synergizes and can eliminate targets that you give them temporary debuffs onto their attack. So Zivkin Banelord would feel like a super value. Like if you executed him, the guard component's gone. But in his defense, not all of the value of Zivkin Banelord is tied to his guard and his stats. He did something by setting all their health to 1. So even if he didn't get comboed off with the Tiny Dragon, maybe you don't have Tiny Dragon hand, maybe you don't have enough Magicka, he is setting you up for the next turn, maybe Cradle Crush, Giant, maybe Ice Storm. I mean, there are different things that could combo off that it's like, okay, well, you weren't able to take them out immediately. You can even use a rapid shot to like kill cards, any card that he weakened later on, right? This just in case he played him naked with nothing else on that same turn. As a 1/7 who sets their health to 1, if an aggro deck was to see this, well, first of all, when they see a guard, they're probably going to silence him. But if they silence him, again, every creature in that lane's health is going to be 1. So the next turn, he's set up to trade into them. So if you're not facing lethal, once he gets silenced versus aggro, he's going to do work. He's going to trade into things, he's going to live, and he's going to keep on eating things. So there's that, okay? I mean, in a desperate situation, let's say you're running a rage deck. I've not seen him in a rage deck, but if you were to have rage with him, let's say you played him naked, he set all the creatures' health to 1, and then they're hitting you and you're almost dead, you could always use Unstoppable Rage to clean them up because his one attack is relevant because everybody in his lane, enemy lane, has only 1 health, is what I'm trying to get at. And even if Unstoppable Rage did 1 damage to that other board, it would be sufficient. Or it would be deadly, right, to those creatures. Notwithstanding ward and stuff like that. So Zivkin Baylords, it's an interesting one. I'm probably not going to be able to craft it anytime soon, but I've been able to acquire cards a little bit. I've been able to slowly get my collection up and running, and it's hard to commit to this. My next playset from Endurance that I'm going to get is the Andai Clan Sorcerers, because those seem to be very good in so many different decks. So we'll see. I'll be pre-ordering the next set, and hopefully, I actually hope they have that option sooner than later because it's summertime almost, and I would love to do the pre-order, and I'd like to see these new cards. And Alliance War was such a good set, such a game-changing set with so many good cards that I know from experience now, if I buy the pre-order for the next set, it won't be enough. Like, if you buy the pre-order, you're basically showing love for the game, and you're basically getting a starter boost, but you're not going to have all the you're not going to have all the legendaries, excuse me, from the set. You're just going to have to play and like slowly craft them. So I'm going to have to save up soul gems probably for the next set release, right? So we have our final card, which I totally missed. I disenchanted 3 of these. Dark Anchor, 0/8. Your Daedra costs 1 less. When you draw a creature, transform it into a random Daedra. I've seen only 1 person play this card against me. I'll tell you this. It was really hard to kill this. A 0/8's not that easy to kill. So it's actually quite durable. So if it was a weaker statted creature, it would be hard to remove. So, but being a 0/8, turning your card, we draw a creature, transform into a random Daedra. This would probably be better if it read, when you play a creature, transform into a random Daedra. Then you know what I would do? I would start playing a bunch of small guys and a lot of card draw with Dark Anchor to get value off it. Unfortunately, being RNG random based thing, it's just putting your hands in the air. I don't actually know how good the Daedra are in this deck game are, but there are a lot of weak Daedra. There are a lot of, I think there are strong Daedra as well. We could take a look on what the heck you could even pull on this. But your Daedra costs 1 less. It could be meaningful, but with Dark Anchor, you're setting your tempo back. So the problem with cards like Dark Anchor is by playing this card, you're effectively doing nothing on the turn you played it, which is a huge tempo swing. Let's think about it. If I'm an aggressive deck and you're playing Dark Anchor deck, and you play Dark Anchor as your 5 magic of play, you're basically saying you're not doing anything to interact with me, and I can advance my game plan and do whatever I want. If I'm aggressive, I'm trying to kill you, so I got 1 turn closer to killing you, and you did not get 1 turn closer to saving yourself. Now, when you have this whole transform into random Daedra, that means if you don't have any answers in your hand to the board state before that, your next few card draws aren't going to be answered. So imagine you have a guard, for example, that you wanted to play. You draw a guard, and it turns into a Daedra. Well, that Daedra doesn't have guard. You need a guard in that situation. Not only did you set yourself back 1 turn, you cannot reliably really do anything. And your deck building just went weird because let's face it, these random generating cards just made your deck game plan irrelevant. Now versus a control deck, let's say you're playing Dark Anchor and you are against a control deck that's running Mana Marco, running Zivkin Banelord, really running late game tools, and you get this card. Well, chances are your late game is worse than their late game, possibly because when you have Dark Anchor on the board, which they might not even kill because they like the idea of you having random crap, maybe you drew your Marak and your Marak turns into a 2-cost Shining Saint. Right? That can happen. So it's possible that they just like that to leave this up and let you draw whatever it is. And during that turn that you played this card, they sighed a deep sigh of relief. Ooh, he's not attacking me. I can now, all my next turns can be the greediest plays possible. Card draw, rezzing camels, ramp, find our win conditions. So while they're finding their win conditions, they've pre-built and designed and basically chosen. I've handpicked Marak, I've handpicked Mana Marco. They're finding those options and they're getting closer to being able to develop it. Right? You play Dark Anchor, they play Thorn Histmage. They're now 1 ramp up to you, and they're 1 step closer to the Histmage. You're 1 step closer to things like Mana Marco, right? And that is going to favor the control player. So against aggro will smile at you playing at this card, and control will smile at you playing this card, which is funny because the cards you're playing are supposed to make your opponent sad, not like happy. So if you play Dark Anchor, it's kind of a card that, oh, he's trolling, he's going to make this an easy win. So that's, and turns are precious. Like every turn counts. So even in control matches where you're passing, every single turn is an opportunity to get closer to winning. And getting closer to winning is the name of the game. So playing this card does not get you closer to winning. In fact, it sets you back one turn. By playing this card, you're basically saying, hold on guys, let's pretend this turn didn't happen. Now we're going to start playing the game because now I got my Daedra online. Making it a very, very slow card. So let's look at the Daedra available to the different the different classes real quick, just to see what could you roll. So you could roll any of these cards. What the heck? That's not an Ogre, it's a Daedra. That's Daedra. You can get an aspect of Hercene on this. That is it's interesting. That's a card I'm interested in crafting in the future. Okay, those are all Daedras. I guess, okay, so of this, what do you want to see? You would want to see maybe Reeve, you want to see these. Okay, these 3 are good, I would say. Blue. Daedra, that's not a Daedra. Okay, so you could actually pull a Doppelganger. That's kind of funny. Piercing Twilight's a Daedra. Mighty Conjuring's interesting card I'm interested in crafting. Okay, this one's a fun one in Arena. That's not, he summons Daedra. Daedra. So far, I mean, these 3 are reasonable. Well, green is Daedra, very, very few Daedra. Green has the least Daedras. So if you can Banelord's a Daedra, Flash Astronaut's a Daedra. What is this? I'm actually quite pleased that this card was not the final winning card of this most recent final. Arnatronach is a Daedra. So Reven's a Daedra. So my thing is that the Daedra that are actually good, instead of playing a card that gives you random Daedra, why don't you just put those cards in your deck? So I actually have only one positive thing to say about Dark Anchor. This card is a good learning card, probably. So if you're in the lower ranks and you don't have a full set and you want to figure out what cards do you like and you just want to play around and have fun, honestly, you could get away with playing this card. You could play this card and have a good time. It could be a fun card. The art's cool. And if you're not, because the meta that I'm facing is very high pressure, every turn counts, people are trying to kill you on turn 4. Chances are, if you're not at that level of competition, Elder Scrolls Legends will be played slightly a little bit more relaxing, a little bit more different. And if that's the case, don't worry. Like Elder Scrolls Legends was very fun for me when I was ranking up. That's how I got to my rank. I ranked up rank 10, 9, I think 9 to 5. I had such a blast with a limited collection, and I would play cards like this. And these kind of cards can really give you access to cards that you not be able to play otherwise. So like cards like Iron Atronach, you may have never be able to play that. But if you play Dark Anchor 3 of, you suddenly increase your chances of trying out all these new cards. So then you get a feel and like, oh, so these are the different cards. And that can give you a real visceral experience in terms of what should I craft and what should I build towards and what should I buy, right? So that's it. That was our set review. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please list them. I will host someone and probably go to dinner. It's been an enjoyable 2 hours. Wow, 2 hours of talking about endurance, Isle of Madness.